Naked Heart Revolution is the go-to podcast for high-achieving individuals seeking to transform their relationships and life. Hosted by Jenny Bingham, an intimacy reset coach. Each episode explores emotional reconnection, personal growth, or business insight through expert guests sharing real stories and strategies. Whether you want to deepen your connection with your partner or elevate your business, this podcast delivers the tools and mindset shifts needed for lasting change. Subscribe to join the community focused on intentional healing and empowerment. Be bold, at least once in a while, because it could save your life. How could boldness be shown? Color, style, presence, words, actions. Every way that we think or we're stepping out of line is a type of boldness. Rima, she actually is helping people to explore their unapologetically boldness in order to thrive. Now she works with women and men. Right now we're concentrating on women. What are the different cycles that they have? What are different aspects? What are the switches and changes and growth that comes out? If you want to take that little step forward and you're afraid to see what might happen, you're not alone. You're not alone. Because when we do something different, first thing, how do we see ourselves? Second thing, how do others see us? Third thing, what's going to happen? Fourth thing, are we going to accept the reactions, the possible consequences, possible acceptance of the changes? Unapologetically bold can definitely save your life one day. If not physically saving life, emotionally, mentally, maybe spiritually. It happens in every single one of us. When we change in a puberty, when we react to a person who, is authority, we disagree with them. Boldness. When does that start? How could it start? When we fall because of it, and that might happen one time or another, are we going to stop? Some might. But the thing is, if you need to live through that, cycle in life, so you be stronger, so you be more knowledgeable, so you be able to understand the next phase, then it's simply a stepping stone. All right, let's hear more of what Rima has to say. We will have a little piece this time. We'll see maybe a part 2 a little bit later.
You're Rima, and you're from where, and what is your coaching? And then amidst that, I'll be asking a couple of questions here and there. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, great. So I'm from Tasmania, Australia, and I coach men and women. I was coaching women, but let's talk about women. I coach women who are done playing small, done shrinking, and really want to step into their unapologetic boldness.
Ooh, so when you say unapologetic boldness, if you could expand that a little bit more.
Yeah, so it means they give themselves permission to be who they are, who they've always wanted to be. But they have been telling this story to themselves that they either don't deserve to be, or they're not worthy, or they don't know how. Just because we are conditioned to kind of sort of fit into boxes that have been made for us. I've done that my whole life, but it starts getting very tight in there at some point.
Tight in, yeah, that makes sense, because you have no space to breathe, to really expand and evolve as your human self.
Yeah. And you know what, with women we go through like like a 7-year cycle, and I think every human being does, but women go through these cycles where they renew themselves, every 7 years. And then, and plus with every menstrual cycle a woman changes, every bit
Changes.
life. Yeah, like just like energetically she changes, right? Because every cycle is like a cycle of completion, even in a small way. So we are like the microcosmos of a big cosmos. So everything is like there's a small bit in a big bit. In the 7-year cycle we have the monthly cycle. Every cycle is a cycle of completion. And then we have like energetic cycles and all of that, and women really feel that very strongly. But living in a very logical world, we tend to really hide those things in us, because like we were chatting before, we feel like nobody's going to understand.
Right. And when it's a logical area, mind you, the people is creative, it's emotional, it's really intuition. But then we're looking, okay, follow the rules, follow the step 1, 2, 3, here you go. Don't digress from it.
Yeah. And I think it's sort of with every cycle of completion. And also, like if you talk of, like if you sort of expand that cycle, not just 7-year cycle, if you actually expand it further, every woman goes through, like, not say every human being, but sort of every woman goes through these massive changes of where she kind of changes her role. Like she'll go from being like this young maiden, right? She'll go from being this young, light-hearted girl, and then she'll enter the phase of, I don't know what to call that age, but it is beyond age, but it's an energetic thing where she'll feel like she's gone into this nurturing, like a maternal, almost like a phase. You don't have to have a baby, you don't have to have a child for that, but you go into this phase where you start nurturing your life, your body. You become more aware of it, you become more aware of people around you. I mean, if you think of a young girl, she's not aware, she's just about herself, right? She's just having fun, she's lighthearted. And then you enter a phase where you start feeling responsibility, and then you start nurturing and over nurture and all of that. But then now this actually lines up pretty well with menopause, where like we are so attached to the identity of a woman around your childbirth and having a functioning reproductive system, and suddenly that starts stopping. This is another identity shift. So and then suddenly, if you really don't lean into that, I have seen a lot of, especially with my work as an obstetrician gynecologist, I have seen that women tend to lose a sense of purpose around that age.
Menopause?
Suddenly, yeah, especially when I was working, women will not express it, but they feel like they start feeling irrelevant.
Okay, because their purpose of being, for example, is taking
woman,
care of, taking care of others, taking care of children, animals, husband, however, as
but
like you
like
said.
if you think of, like, children have moved out, right? Children have moved out, around that age, and like especially with the period stopping when you enter menopause, that is a huge thing for women, and I have spoken to women, like, even sort of with women, like when they have a condition and they have to get a hysterectomy, like get the uteruses removed, it's a huge thing psychologically.
Okay.
Suddenly that uterus is like a symbol. It's symbolic, right? It's a symbol of feminine energy, and then suddenly you take that away, and she's already feeling irrelevant, maybe she is, and suddenly she's like, who am I anymore? And that happens with a lot of women around that age. So puberty is one where she moves from one stage to that whole womanhood, and then the stopping of the cycle. And now you'll see, like, there's so many women in that age group, where she's the wise elder. Like, forget about age, right? She's the wise elder. She has all the wisdom. And for some people, that's 50% of their life. People stop the period at 50. If they're going to live till 100, that's 50% of their life. Imagine
definitely.
Right? Yeah. So imagine, like, even perimenopause, which starts quite early, maybe in the 40s. Like, so she's living. There's a possibility that she might be living 50 years of her life feeling irrelevant, where she should be the wise elder.
Mm. So, what is the main age group of women that you are gravitated to or gravitate towards you?
Yeah. Above 35 years. That is my ideal. And there's a reason for that. But I work with anyone sort of in any age group. Now, see, I do believe like when you're very young, you know, sort of in your teens or in your early 20s, I just tell girls live life. Just live life. Life is your biggest teacher. You don't need to heal anything right now. This is the time to collect everything that you will heal later on.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Because this is experience. Nothing beats life experience.
Okay.
You know, so when you're young and you feel flighty, people are telling you, oh, you're already in your 20s, you know, what are you going to do now? Don't listen to those people, just go live life.
Okay.
So what happens between 28 and 35 or 33 is your first Saturn return. That is your first maturation. So I don't look at girls and go mature at 18. They don't. So the full maturation happens, the first cycle is at Saturn return, where you'll have a big disruption in your life of some kind. Now, the disruption can look external, like something will happen externally and you'll just go, okay, what is going on here? But some disruptions are very internal. You feel this shift in your body, you know, where you go, okay, and nobody else around you can even sense that there's something happening. But disruption will happen because that is inbuilt in the whole cosmic cycle, right? So the Saturn return is your first maturation. And that's why I like to work with women beyond their Saturn return.
Okay. So could it be something as simple as having a child, or as simple as transitioning from one job to another? Or, okay, so those count. Ah, okay.
You will hear lots of people have, you know, like spiritual, that's the first time they really start thinking about, you know, even if it's not external, maybe they have not had a big like shift like what you said that's visible to others, but they might be thinking, you know, what is my purpose in life? Why am I here? There has to be something. Questions like that start appearing, right?
Okay.
And lots of people don't talk about these things, but I've spoken to so many people and they go, yeah, around that age this happened, you know. Or suddenly they'll move countries, or they'll move even states, or they'll have a divorce, or they'll marry someone, and then that marriage will, you know, lead them on the path of like something, you know,
right.
And not sort of minimizing anything, but that could lead to a toxic relationship or whatever, you know. But that is their start of that journey of maturation. How we enter it doesn't matter. How we enter, you're going to enter it. How is just a portal, right? You will just enter it. However, if it's not this, it'll be something else.
So with that, is there a certain type of questions or certain type of behaviors they should notice in themselves that could give them indication, okay, I should probably go see Rima because this is something that I want direction on?
Yeah. It's hard to preempt, like I said, till that age. Like, you know, it's like that. It's like, you know, should I kind of, because like I said, till you hit your Saturn return, till you have to live life. You have to experience that disruption, right? You cannot go and solve a problem before there's a problem. You can't preempt a problem.
Right.
Because now you're projecting. Now, let's say somebody is like I'll just give you my example. So I was married, you know, I married in my 20s, my first husband, and my divorce happened around 30, you know, between 28 and 33.
Okay.
Right? Now, the thing is, I knew my marriage was not going well. Yeah, I knew it. I knew that it was crumbling, and I was crumbling along with my marriage, you know. But I had to hit this kind of like a head. It had to come to a head for me to really go, okay, I need to do something. Now see, Jenny, what happens is if and I'm not saying people shouldn't go seek help, you know, but even while you're seeking help, you will have to experience what that disruption feels like. Because disruptions will keep happening because there are challenges in your life, right? You
Okay.
can't go and seek help before, and like you can go seek help, but you can't expect somebody to take that feeling or that experience away from you, because they can't.
Okay, that makes sense.
You have to experience that disruption in your body.
But what if we don't want to? Come on, we don't want
And
to
that's
feel
the thing. I know
pain.
that's what
We
you're
just
trying to ask.
just
Like, can
block
somebody
it,
help me?
hide it.
Yeah.
I
And you can work with me. So people can come and work with, and I can cushion the fall a little bit.
mm-hmm.
But that's all I can do.